Every kingdom has a king. Every king has a story. But once in all of human history, God himself walked through a lineup of powerful, tall, and mighty men and chose a boy that nobody expected. Not his father, not his brothers, not even the prophet sent to find him. And the reason God chose David was not what anyone thought. In fact, when you understand the real reason, it will send a chill down your spine. Stay with me, because this story is about to change the way you see everything. To understand why David was chosen, we first have to understand the world he was born into. Israel was in chaos. The very first king God had given them, a man named Saul, had failed. He was everything a king was supposed to look like: tall, strong, handsome, commanding. The people had cheered for him, but Saul made a fatal mistake. He chose his own way over God's way, and in doing so, he lost everything. The crown was still on his head, the throne was still beneath him, but the presence of God had left him completely. Israel did not know it yet, but the clock was already ticking on Saul's kingdom. And somewhere in the small, overlooked town of Bethlehem, in a house that history almost forgot, a new story was already beginning. God spoke to the prophet Samuel, and what he said was terrifying in its own right. He told Samuel to stop mourning over Saul, fill his horn with oil, and travel to the house of a man named Jesse in Bethlehem, because God had chosen one of Jesse's sons to be the next king of Israel. Now think about what this moment really means. Saul was still king. He still had an army. He still had power. If Saul found out that Samuel was anointing a new king behind his back, Samuel could be killed. This was not a safe mission. This was not a comfortable calling. Samuel himself said to God, "How can I go? If Saul hears about it, he will kill me." God did not say it would be safe. He simply told Samuel to go. And that one act of obedience was about to set in motion one of the greatest stories ever told. Samuel arrived at Jesse's house, and Jesse did what any proud father would do. He lined up his sons, and they were impressive. The first to step forward was Eliab, and the Bible tells us something remarkable here. Even Samuel, the great prophet of God, looked at Eliab and thought, surely this is the one. He was tall, he was strong, he looked every bit like a king. But then God said something to Samuel that stopped everything. He said, "Do not look at his appearance or his height. I have rejected him. For the Lord does not see as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." One by one, 7 sons of Jesse passed before Samuel, and one by one, God said no. 7 times, 7 rejections, until Samuel looked at Jesse and asked a question that would change everything. He said, "Are these all the sons you have?" Jesse almost forgot to mention him, his youngest son, the one considered so unimportant that he had not even been invited to the gathering. He was out in the fields, alone, doing the job nobody else wanted, watching sheep. But here is where the story gets terrifying. While his brothers were inside being considered for the throne, David was outside fighting for his life. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Alone in the wilderness, David had already killed a lion with his bare hands. He had already killed a bear with his bare hands. No army, no backup, no witnesses, just David, his faith, and the terrifying conviction that God was with him. And that is the reason God chose him. Not because David was the strongest, not because David was the most qualified. God chose David because David had already proven something in secret that his brothers had never been tested on. He had proven that he would fight alone, in the dark, with everything on the line, for something that was not even his own. He protected those sheep, not because anyone was watching, but because it was the right thing to do. And God saw every single moment of it. When David was brought in from the fields, the Bible gives us a small but powerful detail. It says he was ruddy, with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. He was young. He was the last one anyone would have picked. But the moment Samuel saw him, God said, "Rise and anoint him. This is the one." And right there, surrounded by his shocked brothers, in a quiet moment that the world did not witness, the future king of Israel was anointed. Not in a palace, not with a crowd cheering, in a family home, in secret. The Bible then says that from that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. The oil was just the symbol. The real transformation had already happened in the wilderness, in the silence, in the unseen battles that nobody knew about. Here is what most people miss about this story. God did not choose David and then prepare him. God prepared David first and then revealed him. Every lion David fought in secret was training for Goliath. Every night alone in the wilderness was building the courage that would one day lead an entire nation. Every moment of faithfulness when nobody was watching was shaping the heart of a king. And this is perhaps the most terrifying part of the whole story. Not terrifying in a frightening way, terrifying in a convicting way. Because it means that what you do when nobody is watching matters more than anything you do in public. The wilderness is not punishment. The wilderness is preparation. David did not become great on the day he was anointed. He became great in all the days before it, when he chose faithfulness over comfort, courage over safety, and God over everything else. David was not chosen because he was perfect. He was chosen because his heart was pointed in the right direction. The same God who saw David alone in that field sees you too. In your quiet moments, in your unseen battles, in the things you do when the world is not watching. The story of David is not just ancient history, it's a mirror, and the question it leaves us with is one worth sitting with today. What are you doing in your wilderness? If you found this story as powerful as we did, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe to the Prophet Files because we're just getting started. The next file is already waiting for you.